Now, before I say anything, I want to say that I'm going to debunk Deidara supposedly saying Sasori is stronger than him. I know that Swag Kage mentioned that in his ranking the Akatsuki video, but I think that piece of evidence is false. He only showed you a panel of Deidara saying that, but the context implies something else. In fact, you only have to read the rest of the page to see that something is up. The context is that Kakashi is trying to take care of Naruto while he wants to fight Deidara because he has Gaara's body. Deidara's plan up to this point has been to lure Naruto away from the others and then defeat him. Kakashi is in a difficult place here because he's worried about Sakura and Chio because they are fighting Sasori. While Kakashi is weighing his options, Deidara asks him, "Are you sure that you want to fight me?" He then says, "I don't know if I should be telling you this, but Sasori is stronger than I am." Kakashi looks at him unamused, and Naruto tells Kakashi to go help Sakura. Deidara's reaction to this is a smirk. Now, looking at all of this, it's evident that Deidara is lying to get Kakashi away from Naruto. For starters, this is not the appropriate time for him to be praising Sasori. It wouldn't make any sense that he would actually want to help his opponents by telling them that Sasori is the stronger one. If he truly believed that, it would make more sense that he said it to himself at some point to show what he really thinks. Even Kakashi doesn't believe Deidara, and we know Kakashi is one of the smartest characters in the series. Deidara's smirk also gives it away that he's lying. When Deidara first lured Naruto out of the cave, he smirked because his plan was working. When Naruto told Kakashi that he would help Sakura, Deidara smirked again, and this shows that he's trying to deceive them. My final piece of evidence is that in the anime, Deidara asked Kakashi if he really thinks Sasori will be defeated by only Sakura and Chio. Kakashi thinks to himself that Deidara is definitely trying to split them up so that he can capture Naruto. Now, with that out of the way, I'd like to say that I'm not saying Deidara can defeat Sasori in a fight. In fact, I haven't thought about it yet critically, so I don't have an answer at the moment I'm writing this. They are definitely very close in terms of power, but power levels don't win you fights in Naruto. Strategy and counters play a big part in fights, and that's why Sakura and Chio beat Sasori. They were his perfect counters. I think that Sasori could beat more people than Sakura and Chio can, in fact. I've really wanted to clear up this misconception for a long time, so I'm glad I have now. Now I can finally talk about who would win in a fight between the artists. First, let's establish what the parameters of the fight are. There won't be any prep time because giving Deidara time to make explosives would not be fair. They'll also be fighting where Kankuro and Sasori fought, so they'll be fighting in the desert. They'll also start 30 yards away since they are both long-range fighters. Now let's actually talk about how they stack up against each other. The first move of the fight would be Deidara getting in the air. Deidara is able to create his C2 dragon in a matter of seconds, and he would pull it out against Sasori because he knows that Sasori is a tough opponent. Sasori may try to stop this, but we saw that Deidara was able to stall Sasuke when Sasuke pressured him while he was on the ground. One way or another, Deidara is going to be flying on a C2 dragon. As for Sasori, he'll be in his Huruku shell and he'll have his third Kazekage puppet out. This means he can use his Iron Sand to block explosives. Both of these fighters have a lot of moves in their arsenal, so I'm going to start with Deidara and list everything he can do. Starting at C1, these are small explosives that don't do very much damage unless they are very close to their target. We've seen Deidara kill with it when it's latched on a Sand Shinobi's face, but it's difficult to pull that off with Sasori. He was able to use some C1 to burrow into Gaara's sand and detonate them right next to Gaara. This would certainly blow Sasori into a million pieces, but I doubt Deidara could pull it off. Sasori's iron sand would be too dense for his C1 explosives to burrow through like he did with Gaara's sand. These explosives also aren't fast enough to catch Sasori off guard unless it took his blind side. I would really have to stretch it far so that Deidara could pull this off, so for now we're going to say that C1 would only work as a distraction. Deidara's next ability is C2, and these are quite large explosives. They are even much larger than the caves Sasori fought Sakura and Chio in. These are only strong enough to destroy one of Sasuke's wings, and although a stage 2 curse mark makes you physically very powerful, it doesn't compare to an Iron Sand's defense. That is a little bit of headcanon there, but I can justify it. When Gaara used Magna Release against Kimimaro, it withstood and even shattered his strongest attack. This was while he was in his stage 2 curse mark form too. Iron Sand is far denser than Gaara's Sand when he uses Magna Release. I know this doesn't translate perfectly, but it really makes sense that Sasori's Iron Sand could block a C2 explosion. Next is C3, and this is Deidara's second biggest explosive. This one takes a minute to create, and its explosion is relative in size to the Sand Village. Basically, it's big enough to destroy a city. Gaara was able to stop it with a vast amount of sand, but Sasori doesn't have this level of sand. In fact, it's minuscule compared to how much Gaara used. But it is much more dense. At this point, there is much more headcanon than I'm comfortable with here. There's really not a convincible argument that Sasori would survive or not. For now, I'm going to put this one on the back burner. Next is C4, and this explosive works on a molecular level. Deidara first used it when he created a giant clone of himself, but he can also create it using his mouth while using a small amount of clay and chakra. This explosive doesn't visibly explode, but it instead disintegrates into nano-explosives that are small enough to go into someone's veins. Once Deidara detonates these bombs, it disintegrates its opponent. This seems to only be able to destroy living things by entering its blood. Sasori falls into this category because he has a heart, and without that heart he dies. Deidara also knows about Sasori having a weak point at the heart, so he knows that he could attack there. This means that Sasori has no defense against this attack. Some people may say that you have to breathe in the nano-explosives, and to that I say Sasori most likely does breathe. Obviously there's not a lot of science when it comes to Sasori, but a heart needs oxygen to pump blood. When Sasori was stabbed in the heart, he had blood coming out of his mouth, and that is supporting evidence that he does breathe. I can't prove it 100%, but with what I've stated, it seems evidence that Sasori does breathe in order for his heart to function. Deidara's final move is C0, and this is where he self-destructs, and it's his biggest explosion. I'm certain this would kill Sasori, but it would cost Deidara's life, so we're not going to talk about this again unless necessary. We've talked about Deidara plenty, so now let's talk about my man Sasori. Sasori's Haruku shell would protect him against a C1 explosive. The shell would be destroyed, but Sasori would be unharmed. Other than that, his Haruku shell isn't that useful here. The shell can shoot a plethora of poisonous needles, but Sakura was able to dodge this, and this means so can Deidara. Deidara was able to barely react to Sasuke's movement, and Sasuke's movement was way too fast for Sakura when he blitzed Naruto. The only thing this shell can do is protect Sasori from a C1 explosive. So let's look at his third Kazekage puppet. The puppet has some blades on it and other weapons, but what's important about it is its iron sand. It's stronger than Gaara's sand, and that's nothing to scoff at. What makes it even more powerful is that it's drenched in Sasori's poison. Without an antidote, it can paralyze you in a matter of seconds, and after a few painful days, it kills you. Deidara would not have an antidote, so he can't afford to let it enter his bloodstream at all. If it did, he wouldn't be able to use C0 either because he'd be paralyzed. The question here is, can Sasori scratch Deidara? Deidara can fly as high as he wants almost, but Sasori can do the same. We see Gaara stand on his sand to levitate high in the air repeatedly, so it's easy to say Sasori can do the same. We never saw him do it, but he had no reason to when he fought Sakura and Chiyo. He'll be forced to experiment and try it anyway, because Deidara will be able to stay as far away from Sasori as he wants. So Sasori can get as far up in the air as he wants, but if the third Kazekage puppet is destroyed, he'd fall to his death unless he was close to the ground. That wouldn't be the case though, because Deidara would try to get Sasori high in the air in order to put Sasori in a vulnerable position. The iron sand should be able to be manipulated from far away, like Gaara is able to when he fights Deidara, so that won't be a problem. The problem is Sasori can't control as much sand as Gaara, and he can't move it as fast. He can't move it as fast because iron sand is denser than regular sand, and we've seen Deidara evade Gaara's regular sand pretty well. Gaara was able to tear one of his arms off though, but this was because he overwhelmed Deidara by using more sand than Sasori can use. The bottom line is that Sasori's iron sand is not fast enough to hit Deidara in the air. At the same time, Deidara doesn't have any explosives other than C4 that are effective here, and he only uses that when he's pushed pretty far. I see them stalemating for a while until Sasori pulls out his 100 puppet jutsu. This wouldn't accomplish anything though. Deidara's C2 explosives are a hard counter to Sasori's puppets. These explosives can cover a vast amount of area and would easily destroy any puppets in its blast radius. Sasori's iron sand wouldn't be able to protect all of them, and these puppets would probably not even get that close to Deidara. A tired Sakura could react and defeat some of these puppets, and she doesn't compare to how fast Deidara is in the air. We also don't know how far away Sasori can control his puppets, but with their inferior speed it wouldn't matter, because Deidara can create space and fire C2s. This may drain some of Deidara's chakra, but eventually Deidara would defeat the 100 puppets. Both fighters are pushed pretty far at this point, and Sasori doesn't have anything else than his third Kazekage puppet. Deidara still has the option to use C4, and he would use it and it would defeat Sasori by disintegrating his heart. Now, I've come a long way to this conclusion, so I'll give you a small list as to why Deidara would win. Deidara's explosives easily destroy Sasori's puppets. Deidara's C3 might be strong enough to get past Sasori's Iron Sand. Deidara's C4 would certainly destroy Sasori's heart. Sasori's Iron Sand is not fast enough to touch Deidara, and neither are any of his other attacks while they are in the air. Deidara can get in the air rather easily and use his superior speed to defeat Sasori. Overall, it's hard to see Sasori winning, and Deidara could win after using most of his chakra. Deidara happens to be a counter to Sasori, just like how Sakura and Chio were. I haven't thought about it extensively, but I think Sasori is probably overall just as powerful or more powerful than Deidara. He's got an excellent defense, and his offense is highly lethal. I haven't thought about it deeply, but I do want to give Sasori some credit because I think he and Deidara are both underrated. Anyway, that's all for this video. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see more videos in the future. Comment something if you have something to say, and thank y'all for watching, and I guess I'll see y'all next time.